Okay, there is a regular and constant argument against increases to the minimum wage, typically from like the supply side economics types, or the people that at least think they understand what that is. If you pay more, it hurts employment, you reduce the number of jobs, and eventually the total demand for labor actually goes down and you hurt the economy. This is an argument that doesn't make sense for a number of reasons. Number one, it leaves no room for other variations in the labor force. And number two, we've also seen anecdotally that this doesn't actually happen. We've been covering what's been going on in San Francisco County, California for years now, where they were way ahead of the rest of the country in raising the minimum wage there, above and beyond even what many states currently have as the minimum wage. They were years ahead of it. This applied also to fast food, which is one of those industries that's often sort of considered to be, as soon as you raise minimum wage, it really hurts fast food employees and fast food restaurants. No negative repercussions. Now, you could still say, well, okay, David, fine. It's not true that necessarily you hurt jobs by raising the minimum wage, and it's not true that necessarily raising the minimum wage hurts fast food, but that's just San Francisco. San Francisco is a very high income area. It's a very unique situation where it's a high cost of living, but also very, very wealthy area. You need to look elsewhere. Well, fortunately for us, that's exactly what the Center for Economic and Policy Research did. They analyzed a report by the White House Council of Economic Advisors on the effects of raising the minimum wage beyond the federal minimum. Okay, so they say, okay, here is where we are based on the federal minimum wage of $7.25. Let's see what impact on employment and the economy going beyond that federal minimum has. The researchers found that the 18 states plus Washington, D.C., that increased wages beyond the federal minimum wage in 2014, number one, it led to low-income workers benefiting. That obviously makes sense. But it also saw no depression of jobs available to low-income workers. There was no additional economic harm found to those increases above and beyond the federal minimum wage. This actually increased average wages in low-wage jobs, but it also reversed a trend generally of falling real wages that we saw. And we did not see a negative impact on jobs. The CEA, for those who say, hey, it's a White House council, the CEA doesn't have its own data. They use Bureau of Labor Statistics data for workers in leisure and hospitality. And I've talked many times before, if you don't believe the Bureau of Labor Statistics data under President Obama, then you actually can't really argue that unemployment is high or low, because it's all being compared to Bureau of Labor Statistics data under other presidents. And it's very hard to argue that only under President Obama is that data not trustworthy. So those who argue against, for example, safety net programs or raising the minimum wage or having a basic income, they often go beyond the economic argument. Many of them say, the problem, David, is not the economic argument. Fine, maybe these programs, raising the minimum wage, welfare programs, it's not bad for the economy. But we can't just be handing things out to people. And this gets us back to this concept, which George Lakoff talked about quite a bit, of strict father morality, which is when as progressives we identify a Republican position, we analyze it and we say, hey, you know what? It turns out that even though Republicans say they're concerned with fiscal conservatism, they support a policy that is not fiscally conservative, or it's not pro-business. Layer two is fundamentally strict father morality and the idea of people only having what they, quote, deserve, according to conservatives, will actually override the supposedly important principle of fiscal conservatism and making good economic decisions. Last thing on this, anytime we talk about raising the minimum wage, some people will write into me and they'll say, David, if raising the minimum wage is good, just raise it to $200 an hour. Then everybody will have tons of money. Do not fall for that red herring. That red herring ignores that no one is calling for raising the minimum wage to $200 an hour. When we talk about $12, $15, or $18 an hour, we're talking about minimum wages in a range that can be justified by changes to cost of living and increases in productivity and what it takes to earn a living wage in different parts of the United States. That is what is called reducto ad absurdum. When you say, well, if it's good to raise it from 12 to 13, raising it to 200 must be really good. No, no one is arguing that that is what should be done. No serious economists are saying that. You have to base the minimum wage on the economic realities of a living wage and what would be an equilibrium wage in our economy. The $200 minimum wage, red herring, you have to be ready to debunk that because it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Let's take a break. Still plenty more coming up. Glad you're with me on this Thursday. Thanks for watching this video. Before you watch the next one, remember, we're raising money to expand the David Pakman Show big league, as well as expand progressive activism. Go to davidpakman.com/donate. Donations of any size are much appreciated.